Unveiling your birth month's shocking biblical secrets, what it means for your future. The air crackled with electricity as rumors of a hidden truth swept through the townsfolk like wildfire. What if your birth month was more than just a date? What if it held ancient secrets, waiting to change your destiny forever? People whispered of strange encounters, glimpses of mysterious figures shadowing their every step, dreams that felt alarmingly real, messages from the past echoing into the present. Hidden codes in the Bible, they said, tied each month to unique powers and curses alike, and they felt the weight of it pressing down on their hearts. At the local diner, clinking forks fell silent when the subject came up. The waitress, a woman with a thick tuft of curly hair and a nervous laugh, shared her experience. She was born in January. Each year, without fail, as the calendar turned, she found herself plagued by the same suffocating nightmare. "I'm suffocating," she gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I see a man dressed in shadow, his eyes burning like lanterns, and he's calling my name." The hushed gasps around the room lingered in the air like fog. What could this mean? Was it mere coincidence, or something darker lurking beneath the surface? Once the door swung open, a gust of wind whipped through the diner, carrying with it an ominous echo as a stranger entered. He wore a long, tattered coat that billowed as if it had a will of its own. His voice, a gravelly whisper, spoke in riddles, capturing the attention of everyone present. "Each month carries weight, a chain of fate that can't be severed easily," he warned. The room grew still, hearts pounding as if in timed rhythm, and eyes darted back and forth. What had they triggered? What truths lay buried in the past, waiting to be unearthed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the crowd murmured, the stranger's eyes scanned the room like a hawk hunting its prey. "Beware the secrets of your month," he warned, raising a trembling finger. "For January's chill bears the cost of ambition, while December's frost hides the truth, a truth that, once known, can either shatter or elevate you." A collective shudder ran through the diner. What could this all mean? What awaited them in the wide world of the unseen? The tension was palpable, a suffocating blanket of mystery hanging over each person. The question licked at their souls: who among them would dare to uncover their biblical secrets? The answer was closer than they realized. The diner was buzzing with an energy that felt almost electric, a current of fear and curiosity swirling among the patrons. Eyes darted to the windows, as if expecting to see the shadowy figure from the waitress's nightmares lurking just outside. Whispered conversations filled the room, but no one dared to voice their own fears, thoughts tangled in the web of unease that had captured them all. "Did you hear what he said?" A young man at the back whispered to his girlfriend, his voice barely above a strained murmur. She nodded, her hands clenched tightly around her coffee cup, knuckles white and trembling. The fear had seeped into her skin, and she couldn't shake off the feeling that the stranger had not just been warning them, but had been speaking directly to her. Meanwhile, the stranger remained motionless, his piercing gaze still resting on the group. His silence hung in the air like a thick fog, and with each passing moment, it felt as though he were reaching into their souls, unraveling secrets best left untouched. With a flick of his wrist, he pointed toward the waitress. "What of your January?" he asked, his voice low and chilling. "What are you willing to sacrifice for truth?" The waitress shivered, drawn into a whirlwind of memories that flooded back unwelcomely. She remembered the January night spent tossing and turning, struggling to break free from sleep, haunted by the man in shadows. The air in the diner felt constrictive, as if time itself had decided to hold its breath. "Nothing," she suddenly cried out, surprising even herself. "I won't sacrifice anything. I don't want it. I just want to live without fear." Her voice echoed in the tense atmosphere, and a hush settled over the crowd once more. All eyes were fixed on her, some filled with admiration for her courage, while others were cloaked in pity. "Ah, but ignorance carries its own price," the stranger replied, a hint of amusement playing at the corners of his lips. "Every January offers something truly unique. Each dream a portal, each shadow a guide. What will be revealed? It may drive you to madness or free you from it." His eyes gleamed as he paused, savoring the tension that sparkled in the air. If triggered by his ominous words, the windows rattled with the wind outside, sending a spray of icy rain against the glass. Howling, it seemed to join in the chorus of uncertainty building within the diner. The patrons shifted nervously, unease gripping their hearts. Had they opened a door best left shut? Suddenly, the door banged open again, this time wider, and through it walked a frail old man, his back hunched and his face a mask of worry lined with age. "You're in danger," he croaked, eyes darting between the stranger and the onlookers. "You've awakened forces that should remain dormant." Gasps shattered the fragile silence. What danger lurked just beyond their perception? What lies ahead? Someone yelled, fear pulsating through the room like a heartbeat. The stranger turned to the old man, an amused scoff escaping his lips. "They seek answers, old one. Answers that come at a cost." In that moment, the air shifted. The boundaries of the mundane reality softened, revealing cracks where shadows grew longer, restless whispers creeping in. What had they unwittingly unleashed? The waitress pressed a hand to her chest, feeling an unfamiliar sensation, like an inkling of dread wrapped around her heart. "Those born in January," the stranger continued, his voice lower now, "find their destinies tied to the secrets they dare to uncover. Are you ready to learn what it means to unearth your purpose?" As the scene thickened with suspense, the question hung heavy, draped over the crowd like a shroud. Was uncovering painful truths worth the chance of disaster? But before anyone could process their thoughts, a crash erupted outside, drawing their attention. Something or someone was coming, and the night was only beginning to unfurl its chaotic narrative. The wind howled outside as the door swung wider, the storm raging with a ferocity that spoke of more than just atmospheric turmoil. The sound of splintering wood echoed like thunder rumbling in the distance, creating a chaotic backdrop to the tension in the diner. Faces turned pale as the flickering neon lights buzzed overhead, casting eerie shadows on the walls. An ominous figure suddenly loomed in the doorway, obscured by sheets of rain and darkness. As he stepped into the light, the room fell into a collective gasp. His skin was ashen, and his eyes glinted with an unholy knowledge. He bore the marks of weariness, yet there was something supernatural about him. Had he come for them? Or was he another warning? The stranger at the counter leaned forward, intrigued, a spark of thrill in his gaze. "Ah, the herald arrives," he declared, a smile splitting his face, revealing teeth too sharp. "What truth do you bring, harbinger?" The old man from before shrank back, trembling. "The signs are growing. What you've stirred will not rest. Shadows are everywhere and they're watching." His voice cracked as fear riddled his body. "You've all uncovered something ancient, forgotten. You're now linked to it." As the waitress's heart raced, she felt the collective weight of uncertainty crash over her. "What do you mean?" she managed to choke out. "Who are you?" The newcomer stepped further into the light, shaking off droplets of water as if they'd rained into him. "I come from the edge of reality, where the shadows intertwine with our world. You call me Daniel. And what you've awakened is far beyond this diner. The truth the stranger speaks of is entwined with your very lives." Daniel continued, his voice rising above the din of the storm. "He is the keeper of secrets, yes, but some should remain hidden. And now the veil is torn." A tense silence settled over the diner as they absorbed his words, and in that silence, the fear coursed through them, quickening their breaths. A young woman, usually brimming with bravado, clutched her boyfriend's arm tighter. "What does that mean for us? What have we done?" The stranger chuckled softly, leaning back into the booth, his fingers steepled. Ah, there lies the question. What can be undone? How far will you go to seek the truth? You've been drawn into this tapestry, woven with threads of fate. Each January, your destinies shift before he could finish. A loud crash echoed again, this time from the back of the diner. Glass shattered, sending patrons jumping from their seats. Suddenly, a figure stumbled into the diner's view, bloodied and wild-eyed. They clawed at the table, gasping for breath. They're coming for us. We can't hide. Panic erupted. Chairs toppled. Voices raised in a frantic chorus of confusion. Get away! Someone screamed, while others scrambled to the exits. The sense of security shattered, replaced by primal instinct and terror. The waitress felt her heart pounding in her chest, surges of adrenaline and fear propelling her into action. Secrets were dancing before her, but the real battle was looming large. Run! Daniel shouted, but it was too late. Shadows began to ripple around the diner like dark waves crashing ashore, devouring the fragile light that remained. The stranger's smile faltered, replaced by intensity. What now? Someone breathed, dread clawing at their throats. His eyes flashed dangerously. Brace yourselves, your journey is only just beginning. As the shadows grew, fangs and hungry whispers echoed from beyond. The night transformed into something sinister and hellish, way beyond their wildest fears, just as a light flickered and went dark. What was it they had truly unleashed? What lay ahead as the shadows seeped in, whispering secrets that would either save them or lead to their doom? The darkness enveloped the diner, heavy and suffocating. The flickering neon sign blinked weakly, barely fighting the encroaching shadows that crawled through the cracks and crevices. Gasps of terror echoed in the void, and everyone scrambled toward the exit, but the twisted shadows slithered like serpents, blocking their path. Outside, the storm raged, lighting up the sky with vicious bursts of bright white. The droplets of rain that had once seemed like an innocent deluge now dripped with malignancy, blurring the lines of reality. Daniel's voice cut through the chaos, laced with urgency. Listen. You have to face it. The more you run, the stronger it becomes. The fear-stricken patrons froze, eyes darting toward him in confusion. What could they possibly do against the darkness? The panic-stricken young woman, still clutching her boyfriend's arm, turned to Daniel. What do you mean? What are we supposed to face? Her voice shook, both from fear and confusion, but determination sparked in her eyes. Every action has a reaction. What you've unleashed doesn't just want you, it needs your fears, your regrets. You've brought forth something that thrives on darkness. Daniel stepped toward the group, a fierce resolve taking hold of his features. You must take back your power. Embrace the truth, face what lies within. A cruel chill swept through the diner, almost palpable, as though the shadows were listening, waiting. They writhed restlessly. Murmurs filled the air, panic rising like smoke, yet with it, a sense of stubborn defiance stirred within those still standing. The bloodied figure, a young man with wild, terrified eyes, raised himself from the floor, trembling but determined. They're coming for us because of what we did, what we uncovered. We thought it was just a legend, but it's real. It's angry. We need to regroup, the waitress said, her voice steadying against the brewing storm inside. We can't let fear control us. A flicker of hope ignited in the eyes of some, but the shadows were relentless. They gathered, forming grotesque faces, twisting and morphing into nightmarish forms that taunted each individual with their darkest fears. Remember your birth month. Daniel shouted suddenly, his gaze piercing through the chaos. Discover what it means. Each of you holds a key, the secrets may lie within your very essence. Use that power to push the darkness back. Some patrons looked bewildered. Others, grasping for meaning in the tumult, began to murmur among themselves. Birth months. What could that possibly achieve in the face of this shadowy malevolence? January is a winter's turn, a voice called out tentatively, almost lost to the commotion. It's about new beginnings, transformation. February holds love and loss, the duality of relationships, what you cherish but fear losing, another added. Enthusiasm sparked, now mingled with desperation, as the idea took hold. Daniel nodded, a fierce urgency in his eyes. Yes. Gather what you know. Fight this together. The diner erupted into frantic discussions, linking their birth months to the shadows they feared, an unexpected unity forming. But as alliances were forged, a guttural growl echoed from the shadows, a sound seething with malice. The shape of darkness shifted, rushing forth like a tidal wave, faster and hungrier than before. Don't stop. Daniel urged, teeth gritted as he raised his hands. Stand together if you want to survive. Just then, a nearby table broke, flinging a bottle of ketchup. The red liquid shone against the darkness, vibrant as hope. And in a heartbeat, everything escalated again. Shadows clawed at the edges of existence, threatening to drag them all down. Would the secrets of their birth months be enough to stand against this nightmarish force? Would they discover the truth or become one with the shadows? The growl echoed, a jagged sound that sliced through the air, causing the group to recoil. Daniel's heart raced as he glanced at the patrons, faces lit with the haunting glow of shadows threatening to consume them whole. The ketchup bottle lay shattered on the floor, a vivid splash of red against the floor's unnerving darkness, a cruel reminder of their struggles. The shifting darkness hissed ominously, its tendrils curling in mockery of their desperation. Keep talking. Daniel shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. Hold on to your truths, don't let go. The woman who had asked earlier clenched her boyfriend's hand tighter. March, she cried, her voice rising above the chaos. It's about awakening. It's renewal and new life. Her words fell like a spark, igniting reactions throughout the diner. April. Springtime. Another voice shouted. Hope is in the air. We can manifest our strength. Eager energy pulsed through the crowd, giving them purpose. One by one, the patrons began to call out their months, reading out their secrets like an ancient incantation, fighting back against the malevolent force that clawed at their sanity. May means adaptability. We can bend without breaking. A man yelled as he pointed toward the shadows now creeping closer. June's rebirth. Chimed in a girl with wild eyes. Your fears can't overpower the joy of what is to come. Suddenly, the room flashed with unnatural light. Shadows convulsed, their grotesque shapes stuttering in the wake of their fervent declarations. Each word seemed to send shockwaves through the darkness, weakening its grip. But that shadowy wrath was rage incarnate, the growl morphed into anguished roars, and the walls vibrated with disbelief. Don't let it intimidate you. Daniel shouted, his voice a beacon amidst chaos. Your memories and experiences shape who you are. Channel your power. July. Self-love. A woman shouted, tears brimming in her eyes as she let her voice resonate in the room. We can overcome the darkness by loving who we are. August's heat followed. A man shouted, fresh starts. We face the shadows with confidence. Each truth proved infectious, binding them together, growing louder and bolder against the creeping malevolence, but the darkness was no mere spectator. A violent force surged as the shapes within it lunged forward, seeking the source of light. The walls began to close in, shadows spilling over like a tidal wave, determined to snuff out their flicker of hope. September. Facing reality. Embrace the stillness. Came from the back, adding to the spontaneous manifesto. This camaraderie was building not just strength but hope. If they held on tight, the shadows would falter, but suddenly, the diner's front windows shattered, raining glass down like stars falling from the heavens. The raw rage of the storm swirled inside, combining with the hunger of the shadows, amplifying the chaos. Please, we're running out of time. Daniel's voice strained against the crashing calamity. You must hold every secret and fear. Fight it together. There was a flicker, eyes wide, listeners turned to each other, united once again as they clasped hands, drawing energy from their bonds, ready to counter the monstrous wave. But before they could regain ground, a figure appeared at the far end of the diner, silhouetted against the flickering lights. It seemed almost human but twisted, arms misplaced, shadows spiraling around it like a storm. A grin twisted its distorted face, revealing teeth that glinted like knives. "Do you really think sharing your secrets can save you?" it hissed, voice oozing malice. "You know nothing of the darkness you've awakened." In that moment, dread rippled through the group. Panic threatened to break them apart. They had to understand what lurked beyond their shared truths. What secret did the figure hold? Would they have the strength to face whatever it was that had been awakened? With the walls trembling, the tension mounting, the diner stood on the brink of revelation, as the true nature of their fears began to unravel around them, ready to take unthinkable forms. The figure's laughter slithered through the diner, a sound like nails scraping across glass. It was chilling, each note slicing deeper into their resolve. Daniel could feel the tremors beneath him, like an earthquake ready to split reality at its seams. "Don't listen to it," he shouted, his eyes darting around the room. Every patron was frozen, wide-eyed, and paralyzed in fear. The energy that had been gathering, the camaraderie born from shared secrets, seemed to wane in the presence of this dark entity. "Tell me, what do you hold most dear?" The figure sneered, its voice softening but dripping with venom. "Your dreams. Your hopes. Look at your past. Look at the weights you carry." It gestured wildly, sweeping its arm across the room. "The shadows that haunt you have names, faces. You think you can defeat me with whispers of rebirth? Pathetic." A surge of anger ignited within Daniel. "We want to be silenced. Our truth binds us together and makes us stronger." He stepped forward, defiant. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if his words stung. "You don't know us. You can't take what's ours. You really believe that?" The figure's face contorted, the grin stretching impossibly wide. "Every truth you cling to is a thread I can unravel." With a swift motion, it flicked a finger, and the air thickened, a ton of memories bursting loose. All around the diner, specters emerged, tales of broken childhoods, lost love, treacherous betrayals. Voices echoed from the past, chanting their regrets and heartaches. "You think they'll save you? They will only serve as your shackles." The room plunged into chaos, where anguished faces drifted around, filling the patrons with despair. "No!" Daniel shouted, his voice booming above the din. "Stand firm. Remember your strength. Your birth months are more than just time. They define who you are. This darkness thrives on despair. October, the harvest of rewards. Reap what you've sown." A voice called out, trembling yet brave. The urgency in the room shifted as patrons breathed in deeply, rallying around the energy of their truths. One by one, they began calling out their months again, voices building, blending, each proclamation a weapon against the figure. November. Gratitude. Recognize the good even in pain. December. Closure and reflection. We acknowledge the past but claim our futures. As their voices swelled, a blinding light cut through the shadows. The darkness shrieked, a howling cacophony of anger. The figure faltered, jerking back, its smile twisting into sheer rage. It was transforming, not just in form but in its very essence, losing the grip it had on them. Yet, at that moment, a realization gripped Daniel. A chilling thought clawed at his insides. What would happen if they prevailed? What if facing these fears opened up something far deeper, something darker? Just as clarity struck like lightning, the shadows intensified, snapping back with rage. In a desperate move, the figure lunged toward Daniel, talon-like fingers reaching for his throat. It was a frenzied battle between their united truths and this horror that sought to swallow them whole. "Stay with me!" he roared to the group, adrenaline coursing through him. Would they rise to face this terror together, or would they fracture under its overwhelming despair? The room thickened with tension as the churning darkness pushed forward, desperate to reclaim its territory. The air crackled with the electric pulse of their impending fate. Would they break free or be consumed entirely? As the figure's hand cut through the light, everything teetered on the edge. The diner became a battlefield, and the outcome remained uncertain. What was lurking in the shadows that they weren't ready to face? Could Daniel uncover the truth hidden within each birth month before it was too late? The figure's talon-like fingers whizzed past Daniel's face, slicing through the light as if it were mere fabric. He ducked instinctively, adrenaline surging through his veins. All around him, the other patrons stumbled back, their expressions flickering between hope and despair. Daniel could feel their mounting fear, suffocating like thick smoke in the air. "Focus!" he shouted, even as his heart raced, threatening to burst from his chest. The figure was enraged now, a dark storm swirling around its form, its laughter morphing into shrieks that echoed off the diner walls. "Your truth is meaningless. Without my darkness, you are nothing." But Daniel's gaze met those of the others' faces etched with determination, eyes widening with understanding. They were beginning to realize something deeper, linked not just by their months but by the threads of destiny interwoven with their struggles. "What if this darkness you fear is only a mirror?" A woman named Sarah finally spoke up, her voice steadier than before. "What if it reveals the parts of ourselves we need to confront?" "That's it!" Daniel shouted, feeling a surge of energy. "Our fears are not our end. They can point us to our rebirth." The diners started to reclaim their voices, rising like a torrent against the figure's fury. January. A fresh start, new beginnings. Someone shouted, igniting a ripple of hope. February. Love and connection that cannot be broken. Came another voice, stronger than before, and soon the diner erupted in a passionate chorus, drowning out the dark entity. The atmosphere shifted. The light pulsed, growing brighter with each proclamation, each recognition of strength. And yet, amidst this eruption of courage, a thread of unease tightened around Daniel's heart. What if this newfound strength brought forth a darker reality, one they weren't ready to face? With every shared truth, the figure twisted and writhed like a wraith caught in a storm. "You are foolish," it screamed. "You will regret awakening the darkness." The chaos thickened, but Daniel pressed on, inspired by the brave souls around him. March. Boldness to act and fight. Each name attached to a story, each month a declaration against the shadows creeping on the edges, but then a shadow slipped through the cracks of their growing light, a flicker of doubt, a memory too terrible to confront. A man near the back, shaking with fear, broke away from the circle, his voice cracking. "What if these truths tear us apart? What if they reveal who we truly are? I can't." His knees gave way as he sank to the floor, his face pale. "Stop!" Daniel yelled, fighting against his own rising uncertainty. "We can't afford to let any one of us break. This is our moment." He pressed forward, firming his voice. April. Renewal and revival after every storm. The figure recoiled, but the onslaught of truths only fueled its rage. "You think you can overpower me with your pathetic cries?" Suddenly, Daniel's heart sank. He felt it then, the lurking shadows within himself. Memories of longing and loss seeped in, clawing at his mind until he gasped. "What if," he whispered, the resolve in his tone wavering. "What if the darkness within us is what we must embrace?" As the realization struck, the air became electric, the light surrounding him flickering as if questioning his loyalty. The patrons paused, uncertainty hanging heavy in the room. Would they find power in accepting their shadows, or would this choice lead them straight into the abyss? Then, amidst the chaos, a low rumble echoed, answering Daniel's fears. Something deep within the diner stirred, something ancient and powerful. The walls shook. And suddenly, the truth of their birth months loomed larger than life. Hidden truths remained wrapped tightly in darkness, binding them together, whispering secrets that begged to be uncovered. "Face it!" he shouted to the crowd, "dive into the shadows and claim our lives back." Everything hung in the balance, and every moment felt like it could ignite a new horror or spring forth a transformative light. But as the diner seemed to reel from his words, the figure seemed to grow larger, menacing and triumphant. What new terror was about to be unleashed? Could Daniel and the others summon the courage to face what lay beneath their collective truths, or would they succumb to an even greater darkness? The room pulsed with energy, an invisible tide that pulled every breath and heartbeat into a frantic rhythm. Daniel stood at the center, his body rigid with fear but his heart blazing with defiance. He could hear the murmurs swirling around him, words teetering between hope and despair. "Are we really going to do this?" Sarah asked, her voice quaking just above a whisper. "What if embracing our shadows leads to ruin? Or what if it leads to salvation?" Daniel countered, desperation fueling his resolve. "We can't let fear dictate our choices. We've faced too much to retreat now." He glanced at the flickering entity, which seemed to pulsate with rage, growing larger, darker. The figure wailed, its voice a chilling cacophony that rattled the dishes on their tables. "You think you can wield your truths as weapons against me? I am the dark, the forgotten, the void you are too terrified to face." A tremor coursed through the diner, the lights flickered overhead, shadows dancing wildly along the walls. The patrons, though fearful, rallied against the oppressive presence. "May!" called an elderly woman, clutching her fists, her voice rising defiantly. "The month of perseverance. We won't be broken." The word echoed, hanging in the air like a baton passed, igniting their collective spirit. June. Joy and abundance. We won't hold back. Another shouted, voices symphonizing into a crescendo of declaration, but the tremors beneath their feet intensified, as if the very foundation of the diner quaked in protest of their resolve. Daniel clung to the rising tide of their unity, pushing against the dark depths that threatened to drag them under. "What if our truths tear us apart?" A familiar voice cried out, this time from a woman Daniel recognized, her face pale, eyes glistening with tears. It was Lisa, a mother whose laughter had once filled the diner but who had been silent too long. "What if facing what we really are reveals a darkness we cannot escape?" Her words struck hard, silencing the gathering storm for a moment, creating an unsettling stillness. Daniel turned, feeling the weight of her fear pressing against him. "No," he replied, his voice steady despite the panic swirling in his chest. "What if confronting our darkness sets us free? This is how we find strength." As if enacting their collective strength, the figure arched back, anger exploding in a shattering roar that shook the plates. "Rebellion is futile. Your truths are riddles filled with despair." Its talons slashed through the air, closer this time, and the force of its fury rippled toward the group. Then, something broke through. In the turbulent ether of emotion and fear, a flicker of bravery surged in Daniel's heart. "July!" he declared, the word bursting forth like a wildfire. "Courage to stand united. We're not alone in this fight." And as he spoke, a golden light erupted in the diner, illuminating the dark corner where the figure loomed. The patrons gasped, their fear replaced by a fierce glow of determination. With each name they shouted, more light poured in, threatening to drown the entity in brilliance. August. Strength through community. A man screamed, catching fire from Daniel's fervor, but then, the walls shuddered violently, fracturing under the weight of the entity's vengeance. The lights flickered dangerously, and a voice that was both thunderous and soft seeped into Daniel's mind. "You dare challenge the fabric of your being? Your darkest secrets will be your undoing." Daniel's breath hitched. The shadows within him swirled, whispers of his deepest fears clawing at him. He could feel them, the doubts, regrets, the moments of pain he had buried deep. Would unveiling these wounds truly empower them, or would it open the floodgates to devastation? Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows at the far end of the diner, a ninth patron who had been watching silently. As they stepped into the light, Daniel's heart raced. This was someone from his past, someone he had never expected to see again. "Dean!" Daniel shouted, astonished. "What are you doing here?" But before Dean could answer, the figure's laughter sliced through the air, deep and menacing, freeing the echo of unsettling truths. "A reunion of shadows," indeed. Will you embrace what he carries, Daniel? Or will your past crush this fragile hope? Daniel froze, the realization paralyzing him as the room spiraled into chaos. All eyes were on him, but it was the darkness whispering secrets he feared most. Would facing his past unite them or unravel everything they had fought for? He had to make a choice, and the clock was ticking. The air thickened, heavy with an electrifying tension. Daniel's heart raced, a wild drum against the silence that swallowed the room. He could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down, each pair of eyes searching his, desperate for direction. "Daniel, what do we do?" Sarah's voice trembled, her wide eyes revealing the fear she tried to mask with bravery. "What if we can't face it?" The voice of the entity curled around them like a serpent, whispering dark promises. "You can feel it, can't you? The shadows that cradle your secrets. They're sharper than knives. Will you wield them, or let them bury you?" Daniel swallowed hard, the lump in his throat burning with the enormity of the choice laid out before him. At that moment, he felt Dean's presence like a lighthouse in the storm. Whatever the past held, they were still bound by shared histories, ancient griefs, and laughter that echoed in vulnerable moments. "You," Daniel shouted, his voice breaking through the din. "We face our truths. Dean, please talk to me." Dean's face held a mixture of apprehension and something unnameable, sentiment tethered to a past too fraught to ignore. "Daniel, I wasn't prepared for this. I buried it all. I thought I could forget," he stammered, taking a step forward, the light illuminating the pain in his eyes. "Burying it only gives it power," Daniel urged, stepping closer to Dean, an unwavering beacon amidst the tempest. "What's done is done. This is our moment to transform our fears into light." The entity seethed, its form swelling, dark tendrils writhing against the burgeoning illumination. "You think facing the past will save you? It will consume you. I am your shadow, I am your truth." A collective intake of breath rippled through the diner as patrons gripped their tables, bracing for an impact that felt inevitable. The laughter in Dean's eyes faded, replaced by something raw, a flicker of belief. "I lost myself, Daniel. I let my secrets eat me alive." His voice shook, but it carried the edge of determination. "But maybe it's time to show them who I really am." With the flicker of resolve igniting within him, Dean let his breath go, exhaling the darkness he had chained for so long. I loved my sister. And I wasn't there when she needed me most." As he spoke, shadows began to retreat from the corners of the diner, recoiling like wounded animals. The fear in the air thickened, but it transformed, morphing into something palpable, a unity of regret and hope, a vulnerability tinged with acceptance. "September." A woman cried out, her voice breaking the dimming silence. "The month of reflection. Let us reveal our truths." October. "The courage through the changing." Another echoed, bolstered by the rising tide of determination. Daniel held his breath, feeling a shift within himself as each month's invocation filled the air with a protective warmth. The ghosts of their truths swelled, tethering them together. The entity roared in fury, but the thrumming light only grew. "You defy me?" It shrieked, the distortion warping as it struggled against the combined efforts of the diner's patrons. "Your darkest truths will only cause more pain. Then let the pain come. We stand united." Daniel shouted, feeling that voice awaken within him. With each name they invoked, their shadows intertwined, drawing strength from the scars of their histories. The diner radiated with vibrant energy, a glowing tapestry of collective resilience. But as the entity writhed and twisted, desperation clawed at Daniel's chest. Would this truly dispel the darkness, or would it simply unleash a new horror? Then came a voice from deep within the thrumming chaos, buried and raw yet fiercely alive. "What if I told you my truth could save us?" Daniel's heart raced faster than he could manage. Who had spoken? What other secrets lay waiting in the abyss? He turned, eyes wide, desperate for the answer that could shatter or strengthen them all. Whose truth? He gasped, unable to contain the urgency in his tone. In that breath-stopping moment, the answer rippled through the diner. And everything felt poised. The world waiting for that revelation to crash like a wave. Daniel stood at the epicenter of chaos, a flicker of resolve igniting in him against the turmoil that threatened to swallow them all. It was not the darkness outside he feared, but the darkness within. The flickering lights overhead cast dancing shadows across the diner, and in that swirling gloom, a sense of clarity began to take form amongst the crowd. "Remember your months," he shouted, his voice strong, cutting through the dense tension. "We can face this together." He felt the energy shift in the air, as patrons began to gain confidence from his urging. The waitress, emboldened by his call, stepped beside him. "January brings hope. A chance for fresh starts. We can change our paths." Her voice rang true and clear. Hope sparked in others, igniting a chain reaction. February. Love that conquers all. A graying regular shouted, the familiarity of his declaration wrapping everyone in warmth. One by one, the patrons began calling out their months, words pouring forth like an ancient song, binding them in a collective resistance against the darkness. March. New beginnings. April. Renewal. May. Perseverance. The noise blossomed and reverberated, filling the air with the trace of shared triumphs and sorrows alike. Daniel took a step forward, his determination surging. "Stand together. Your burdens, your secrets are not curses. They are the keys that will shatter this darkness." The figure, once towering and fierce, hesitated as the light from their united cries surged with incredible intensity. Shadows writhed around it, repelled by the words spoken in courage. It reeled as if stabbed by each hope declared. "You think this will save you?" It hissed, its voice filled with rage and disbelief. But the patrons only grew louder. June. Joy. Unyielding gratitude. A voice cried out. With every invocation, the shadows shrank, their menacing forms retreating into the corners, like creatures that could not bear the light. The entity faltered as July. Strength from self-love. Echoed through the diner, a protective shield forming around the group. Daniel's heart raced as he stood firm, the weight of leadership resting heavily upon him but also bolstering him with purpose. August. Connection and unity. We fight as one. But soon a sliver of doubt crept in, cold and mingled with fear. What if facing these truths reveals something worse? A trembling voice called from among the crowd. It was Sarah, bathed in uncertainty. "Would you rather remain shackled?" Daniel shot back, gripping Sarah's wrist gently with conviction, strength fueling his voice. "We're not here to be engulfed by our shadows. We're here to rise above them. We're stronger together." The air crackled with mutual understanding, voices rising like a chorus burned bright against the encroaching dark. September. Reflection and resilience. A man shouted, his eyes blazing with passion. October. The bounty of rewards. As the declarations intertwined, the entity writhed as if battered by an unending storm of light. It bellowed, trying to regain control but faltering with each truth spoken. November. Acceptance. Acknowledging our struggles doesn't mean we're defeated. Came another voice, trembling yet filled with newfound strength. December. Conclusion and clarity. We let go of what no longer serves us. They were fierce, and together they pushed back against the malevolent force, the light exposing its frailty. The figure snarled, desperation filtering through its anguished cries. "You think you've won? Your truths will only bind you. You'll never escape the darkness I represent." Daniel felt a surge of energy throughout the room as he connected deeply with those around him. "We won't hide. We will embrace our truths." A collective gasp echoed, and then the unexpected happened. Shapes began to emerge from the shadows, figures long lost, memories whispered into existence. They were older, some faces weathered by grief, but all became a symphony of strength. The past melded seamlessly with the present. One familiar face stepped forward, and it sent a wave of recognition through Daniel that felt like a warm sunbeam breaking through heavy clouds. It was Dean, a brother forged from shared laughter and loss. The shadows flickered, grasping for Dean, but he stood firm, unbroken. "I lost myself too long," Dean said, voice steady and true. "But there's power in standing alongside each other. The darkness may whisper, but I choose to be here now." Shadows shrunk back again, the smallest of gasps from those around him, fueled determination. Together, they called out, "December. We claim closure." With an explosive surge, the light grew exponentially, pushing back the entity like the dawn chasing away the night. It snarled, thrashing against the tidal wave of truths, the laughter of freedom ringing louder than its wrath. "Face it!" Daniel shouted with all his might, rising to the occasion. "The darkness can't hold us anymore." As their united voices merged into an unyielding anthem, the light burst forth in a brilliant wave that consumed every corner of the diner. The shadows screamed in fury as the last remnants of darkness dissolved into sparks of luminescence, and then it was done. The storm faded, the darkness receded, and silence engulfed the diner. Moment by moment, the glittering light faded, but not the bonds they had forged in that struggle. The diner was warm now, filled with laughter and shaky breaths, exhaustion replacing dread. The people looked at each other, tears shimmering but smiles blooming. They were no longer just a collection of customers sharing space. They were a family, forged in the fires of their pasts, triumphing over the shadows that had once threatened to erase them. Together, Daniel murmured, feeling a squeeze of hands around him. "No more fear." And as they began to share stories of their truths, the bonds forged in the fire of shared experience became something beautiful. They had made it through, transcending into a newer version of themselves. They were something greater now, shaped through their battles. They were no longer alone in their journeys. As the proprietor of the diner turned off the neon lights, waking from this dark nightmare into a brighter reality, the warmth and laughter surrounded them. The night, heavy with secrets, morphed into tales of empowerment and community. "Let us never forget," Daniel said, looking at each face that once trembled, now empowered alive. In that moment, the story of the past didn't just linger, it embedded itself back into life, a reminder that shadows can never extinguish the light of human connection. So, what happens next? That's where you come in. You need to subscribe now to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. It's the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And, I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.